everybody, it's Kristen. We're going to go through a quick tutorial on how to make this hat. Instead of spending all the time making this big hat, we're shrinking it down to this little mini tiny hat. That way we can go through the whole process of how to make it, but just on a smaller scale, so you can see all the steps without having to watch an hour-long video. So first we're going to grab our yarn and we're going to start with our J hook. We're going to do our slip knot and we're going to chain 10. Now there's other videos on my YouTube channel showing a more detailed description of how to chain and how to work with the foundation chain. Please feel free to check those out. We're just going to go through it quickly. We're going to pinch the slip knot. We're going to go under the yarn with our hook and pull it through. That's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to keep doing that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For our mini hat, we're just doing 10 chains. Whereas if you were doing a full-size adult hat, you want to make your chain 11.5 inches long. That's a good adult size. And that's the length of the height of the hat. So if you want it to be slouchier, you add more. If you want it to be less slouchy, you add less. So now we're going to work into our foundation chain. So we're going to find the third loop, the third chain from the hook. So you can look on, I usually count the bottoms. You can see it's a bunch of little V's. So you can go 1, 2, 3. So this is the one we're going to work into. We wrap our yarn around the hook. We go along the bottom, go straight through, wrap again, pull all the way through, pull it up parallel to the work, wrap, pull through all 3 loops. Again, there's another video on my YouTube channel that you can see. And we switched to our I hook because this is the actual size of the hat the pattern that we're using. The J hook was just for the chain only because people tend to make chains really tight, tighter than the actual work. So hopefully using a bigger hook will alleviate that problem. So we're just going to go along and go along the bottom, wrap, pull straight through, wrap, pull through all 3. And this is a half double crochet. So we're going to go to the end. Here we go. All right, there we go. The foundation chain, working to the foundation chain, is by far the hardest row that you'll be doing. So just hang in there. All right, so now we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Turn our work. And for this hat, to get this texture, we're going to work in the back loop only. You can see the top, on the top of the work, there's these little V's. And then when you turn it toward you, the part of the V, the leg of the stitch that's toward you is the front loop. The leg of the V that's to the back is the back loop. So what we're doing is wrap our yarn, go under just the back loop. So now on our hook we have the back loop of the V, our wrap, and our initial loop. Now we're going to wrap the yarn again, pull through just that back loop of the V, and pull it parallel up to the work, up along the work. So this is 3 loops on our hook, wrap again, pull through all 3. And then we're going to do it again. Oh, and actually a helpful hint is to add a stitch marker right here after our first stitch. And this will come in handy later and I'll show you why. So we're just going to go wrap through the back leg of the stitch, wrap straight through and up, wrap in all 3. There we go. And we're going to get to the end of the row. So one of the hardest things as a beginner is understanding where each stitch is, and I guess it would be called reading your work. Understanding when you get to the end of the row, what the last stitch looks like, what the first stitch looks like, and making sure you have the same number of stitches per row. You can either do this by counting every time, or you can use this trick I'm telling you. So now at the end of the row, you chain 2, turn just under the back leg again, wrap through all three, mark this stitch. And this is just a technique for beginners. As you get better at reading your work, you won't need to use these stitch markers, but this just indicates what the first and last stitches are. So that way you can make sure your work doesn't end up being a triangle or getting wider as you go. This is just a nice way to keep track of where the ends are, so you don't add or subtract stitches by mistake. So now we can tell this is the last stitch of the row because that was our first stitch of the previous row. So we can just use that. We go on a back leg, we make our stitch, and we remove our marker. The other thing is, in the real size hat, you're going to make your foundation chain 11.5 inches. And for an adult, you want to make the length of it as you go 18 inches or to 19 inches. So I found that 18 inches is really good for a small adult, 19 for a large, and if you want to find that medium sweet spot, do 18.5. So I am just gonna zip forward on the video and just get a few more rows done, and then we're gonna slip stitch the hat together. So the next part of the hat, now we have a rectangle. And obviously when you're doing a real size hat, your rectangle will be much, much larger. What we're gonna do is we're gonna chain just one. We're gonna fold our work so that the side that we started on is in front of the side that our hook is on. So you fold it up like that. Once you have that, you can slip stitch the two sides together. It does make a seam, but when the hat is all completed, it really kind of matches the texture that we created by that back loop only. So here we go. We're going to go through the foundation chain right there on the top, and then we're going to line up our back, and we're going to go through both legs of the V of the back. We're going to wrap our yarn. We're going to pull through both of those stitches and pull through the working loop. So let's do it again. Go through the front piece of material, just through the loop, through both legs of the V of the back material, wrap, pull through both, and pull through your working loop. So let's slip stitch down the length of this, and then you're creating the tube of your hat. This is what closes your hat up. Oops. Okay. All right. So now we finished. Now we have a little tube. Now you're going to have quite a larger tube. It's actually, if you want to keep it a cowl, this is basically what a cowl is. It's just a tube of crocheted material. But we're going to make this into a hat. In order to do that, we're going to grab our scissors. We're going to leave a really long tail and cut it. We're going to bind off our work by taking our tail and threading it through our working loop. Just like that. We're going to pull tight, and that will close off our active stitch. So now everything's all secure. So now we're going to grab a needle. Hold on one sec. And we're going to thread our tail onto our needle. And here we go. So now we have our tube. That's our hat. So now we need to make the top of the hat. All we're going to do is take our needle, and from the outside of the work, we're going to thread the needle in along the top row at the top. See right there. Thread our needle in from outside to inside. And we're going to go do that. And we're going to, every couple stitches, we're going to do that. So outside to inside. Basically, we're pretty much creating like a top of a drawstring bag. So we're just going to do that all the way around. There we go. Here we go, right back to the beginning. There we are. And now we're just gonna pull, and we made the top of our hat. So what I like to do is I like to take my needle and go around a couple more times, just kind of wiggle it through the stitches. It doesn't have to be perfect, just to give it a little more security. What I'll probably do is make this the inside of the hat, so you can't really see all this. So my needle might be a little big for this situation, but anyway, so you're just gonna, I like just to secure it extra because the circle does tend to wiggle itself loose sometimes. The thing with these kind of hat is really to complete the look of them, it's best to add a pom-pom. Like hides some of the gathering at the top. If we have time in class, when we're doing the classes, I will show you how to do a pom-pom, or I'll do another video for one. I am not that good at pom-poms, so I'll give you a heads up. So now we're going to weave in our N. We're just going to make like the shape of like a W or an N. You want to go 3 times, like down, then back up through your work, and then down through your work, and that will also give it a little more security. We're going to cut the yarn. We're going to weave in our starting end. We're going to do the exact same thing. Put it on the needle. Make the shape of like a W or N. We're just going to go up through a few stitches. And then back down in like a diagonal. And then up. And that will hide your end in really well. Give that a cut. I am going to flip it inside out. So when you're crocheting back and forth like we did to make this hat, you don't really need to worry about what the front side and back side is because they're pretty much the same. Obviously this is not the best looking hat, but you get the whole idea of this is basically the technique that you use for the larger hat. But the larger one will look a lot better, I promise. And then you put a little pom-pom on it and voila, you have a hat. So this one's a little larger. But anyway, you get the general idea of how to do it and all the steps. As you can see, I've tried to do this video a few times. All the steps that you need to complete a hat. And just remember that the larger size hat, the actual hat, is 11.5 on the initial chain and then up to about 18.5 when you work it. So anyway, I hope that helps and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks, bye!